Hey everyone, share the footage here. I want to talk about the growing epidemic of police cowardice in America. I was about the same age as the young victims in the Uvalde school shooting. I almost lost my dad due to a selfless act of bravery. I'll get to that in a minute, but first, I wasn't planning on making another Uvalde video because it's already getting so much coverage, but then a local story of police cowardice hit too close to home, so I could not remain silent. A man who used to come and watch my band rehearse recently drowned in Tempe Town Lake while Tempe officers watched, filmed, and one actually said, "I'm not jumping in after you." He was a neighbor of my bandmate, and although I didn't know him well, he left enough of an impression that I remember him as a gentle, generous, and kind person. Even if he was a total jerk, or even if he was suspected of breaking the law, there's no reason a first responder should watch a man die without lifting a finger. I'll put a link to videos about that in the description below. Now back to my dad's story. One day my mom was washing dishes when she saw out the window two girls fall through the ice on the lake behind our townhouse. She yelled, "Jerry, those girls just fell through the ice!" This woke my dad from a sound nap. Before taking his next breath, he was on his way out the back door. Moments later, he was in the frozen lake trying to rescue those children. He had no training in rescue. He just had the basic human instinct to help children who were in a life or death crisis. One of the girls managed to pull herself out of the lake, but sadly my dad wasn't able to locate the other girl, even after swimming under the ice to search for her. He got stuck under the ice and had to cut up his hands pretty bad, chopping through the ice just to save his own life. I'd like to think if I was ever in a similar situation, I too would immediately act due to the example my dad had set. The girl's parents came over to thank my dad for his selfless efforts, and yet for the rest of his life, he felt the pain of not being able to save her. Do you think the parents of the Uvalde school shooting victims will visit those cops to thank them for doing nothing while more kids got shot and others bled out on the floor? Compare that to what my dad did, with absolutely no training and no obligation to help those girls. Compare that with the failure of 19-plus officers in Uvalde. They are paid a lot of money to immediately act in that situation, to put their lives at risk if necessary, to try and save innocent lives. They even had recent training for just such a scenario as was unfolding in front of them. But apparently, survey says 19 out of 19 Uvalde cops believe it's too scary to do their job, too risky to save children. In that moment, they decided not to do what they were trained to do, what they were paid to do, and what they caused the parents themselves to try to do before being restrained, pepper sprayed, tackled, and handcuffed by police outside the school. This was about the worst failure of courage, of humanity, of decency, of morality that I've ever seen. Is this spreading cowardice by police an indication of the moral decay of society? One might have thought that moral decay would lead to people lying to their spouse, or perhaps stealing something, or doing hard drugs, or vandalizing something. Who would have thought it might one day lead to police standing by or even running away from children being attacked by a madman? Don't get me wrong, the madman is to blame for carrying out a horrible crime. But we have police for a reason. A school shooting is among the most critical reasons to even have police. Perhaps the moral decay of society starts with the police. All we ask is that you fight crime while committing no crimes, committing no policy violations, committing no rights violations. Who better to set an example for society than those we put in charge of enforcing the law? Bravely do what you were hired to do. I'm done asking. This is what we demand and are entitled to expect from you. I'm not saying police never do any good things. I'm saying they need to stop doing unspeakable things. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of stories on the internet showing heinous crimes committed by police, many of which have little or no accountability or consequences. We need transparency, accountability, attitude reform. There's enough national visibility and outrage over the handling of the Uvalde shooting that it's quite possible there will be real accountability for those on the scene who did the wrong thing or who failed to do the right thing. But what about all the cases that don't make national news? There's thousands of stories just on YouTube that didn't get the media traction needed to hold officers fully accountable. No longer should there be a free get-out-of-jail card waiting for them just because millions of people aren't protesting in the streets. The final act of cowardice I'd like to point out in this video is the time Mesa PD dragged me unconscious from a crashed car, pulled my pants and underwear down, then 10 to 15 seconds later were beating, kicking, and tasing me before finally dropping my head onto a curb. Scroll back to my very first video post to see this incident if you haven't already. When police fear for their lives from what an unconscious person might do to them to the extent that they beat and nearly kill that person, coupled with the other stories I mentioned, it's quite clear that courage among police is becoming extinct. I'd like to see those Uvalde police refuse to accept their next paycheck, or better yet, donate their next 19 paychecks to the families of the victims. Or they could resign. Remember those 4 Capitol police officers who took their own lives because of the remorse they felt after not being able to stop the mob from entering the Capitol on January 6th? I haven't heard of a single Uvalde officer who felt that same level of remorse. And they didn't just fail to protect a building, they failed to protect the lives of children who were in a life or death crisis. When your instincts tell you not to immediately try to stop a mass school shooting unfolding in front of you, you need to admit you chose the wrong career field. Hopefully I've made it clear why we continue to put a spotlight on the things police do in this day and age.
Isn't this awesome? Isn't it awesome what Walt's doing? This is so great to see all these wonderful artists showing up at Tempe Center for the Arts, supporting our local artists. I see so many unfamiliar faces, but familiar faces as well from many nights of playing and busking for money down on Mill Avenue. So we're going to play a couple of tunes for you that came out of all of that. This first one I wrote about 10 years ago, and most of our songs are about freedom and revolution in the art world. So here we go. And there's so many artists here, or art appreciators, which, it's both are necessary. We're losing a lot of our personal freedoms in our life right now, and I think everybody's aware of this, no matter which way you lean, to the right or to the left. I think it's getting a little absurd that it seems like we're almost under martial law right now. I don't know if anybody else is noticing this or not. But it's traditionally been the focus of the artist and the world, and throughout history, to stand up and voice against that. And I know there's a lot of faces here, including Walt, that have been fighting for that for a long time, especially on Mill Avenue and places like that. Tempe's got a good scene, so here's a little song called Revolution about freedom. If you can feel the rhythm, but the flashing lights and the sirens out, and the helicopters are coming down to put an end to it. So you catalog and you analyze and you formulate your alibi. I'm open choking on it. Freedom's just a thing you use. From it. Some things got to change. There's a better way. Every day is a day. All right.
walk tall, speak out, sing of joy and life, sing of freedom. Now make your peace, clean your guns, and pay your prayers, the time has come. Let your life party. Drown the earth with gasoline. You strike the match, you burn everything. Stake a claim upon it. Hoist the sails, break the chains. The time to fight is come again. And back to the life upon it. Some things got to change. There's a better way. Every day is a day. A revolution. A revolution. A revolution. Let's start a revolution. Terroristic politicians claim that the red alert is high today, but I can't worry about it. They tell me not to sell my soul, invest in oil, and buy their gold, but I can live without it. Well, the time to bore and the huddle masses, the fight on first, the question after, put to shame. It's liberty and life with you. Well, it stinks of lies and it's run by fools. But who's to blame? I think we all are. Some things got to change. There's a better way. Every day is a day. A revolution. A revolution! A revolution! Let's start a revolution! A revolution! Thank you, guys. See everybody out here at Occupy LA. Come on in, everybody. I need to hear your voices. Don't be afraid to step right up. Make yourself seen, make yourself known. That's what we're here for. We're the local crew. We're traveling around. Local crew refers to the fact that most of us are roadies and work in the entertainment and the movie industry. Everybody's industry is taking a hit. It doesn't matter what you do, if you're employed, unemployed, overjoyed, underpaid, laid, whatever you discriminated against. Everybody's feeling the hit on this one. Yeah! So those of us in the unions and the local crews have decided if they're going to take our work, we're going to wander around from city to city and state to state and make some work for ourselves. And I see all you guys doing the same things, and that's fantastic. This here's a little song of a band wrote called Song of the Day. We're going on one. citizens of this country to fire our politicians, to take over our schools, to take over our public city halls, and do what we wish, when we wish, because we pay for it. Yeah. We're going to do a little Neil Young for you. That was Cortez the Killer. That's one of the original protest songs. Thanks, guys. So it's great to see everybody just being here, occupying, letting everybody throughout the entire world know that we will not be downtrodden. We are your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, and we refuse to be fired on first and questioned after. In fact, it's time for us to start asking the questions. You get pulled over and he asks you for your ID, you ask him for his bond number. You go to court, you tell them you're a sovereign nation and you represent your sovereign nation. They will throw your case out of court right here on these city steps. Know your rights, work your rights, stand up for your rights, and utilize your rights. Here's a little Grateful Dead for you. For the 99%.